On Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song, I posed a question which I'm sure at this very moment is keeping you on the edge of your seat in anticipation. What is Jewish music? Well, it's not so easy to answer. Now we can all point to some melodies and say, that's Jewish music. For example, Torah trope, the melody which we use to chant from the Torah. Merecha tibecha munach et nachta, merecha tibecha merecha sof pasuk. And Nusach HaTfilah, the prayer chant melody of the Eastern European Ashkenazi synagogue. Like Yismach Moshe b'madanat chalko, ki even ne'eman karat lo. And many other such examples. If you want a brief review of synagogue music, you can check out my musical crash course in synagogue music on YouTube, which I recorded for Shabbat Shirah 5781. And then there are songs composed by Jews for Jewish contexts, like Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila, Hava Nagila v'nismecha, or Yerushalayim shel zahav v'shel nechoshet v'shel or, halo lechol shiraych ani kinor. Or Eufen Pripetschak brennt a Feuer, und ein Stieb ist es, und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach, der Malef besor, una candelica, dos candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, cinco candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelas para mí. Or, since today is Tu B'Shvat, Hashkedia porachat v'shemesh pazorachat tziporim berosh kol gag mevazrot et boechak. Tu B'Shvat higia chagai lanot. Tu B'Shvat higia chagai lanot. But then there are gray areas. Consider the following. Is Jewish music that which is composed by Jews? If so, what about I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. That's by Irving Berlin, a member of the tribe. Is that Jewish music? I don't think so. What about music from the synagogue that is possibly composed by non-Jews, like Shehu note shamayim ve'yosed haaretz u'moshav ikaro b'shamayim imal? That is a direct borrowing from a folk tune that you all know. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout, down came the rain and washed the spider out. Or En Kelohenu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkenu, which is purported to be an old German drinking song, so we should have beer steins when we are singing it. But of course we don't do that in synagogue. How about from Tisha B'Av? Eli Tzion ve'areha, Kemo isha b'tzireha, which was demonstrated by ethnomusicologist Dr. Eric Werner to be derived from a Crusader melody sung in 11th century France. And what about Israeli hip-hop? Is that Jewish music? And what if that Israeli hip-hop is in Arabic, produced by Jewish or even Muslim performers for an Israeli Jewish audience? Is that Jewish music? And here's an interesting question. If Jewish composers borrow from synagogue music or from Yiddish folk tunes, creating new music for a non-Jewish audience, is that Jewish music? So here's an example. Unter jedes Wiegele steht a chlorweiß Ziegele. Das Ziegele ist gefroren handeln. Das wird sein dein Beruf. Rojinkes mit Mandeln. Schlof, Jedele, Schlof. That's composed by Avraham Goldfaden from the 1880 Yiddish musical Shulamis But compare that song to the following. Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but blue skies from now on. I never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right, noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my how they fly, oh blue days, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on. That was from the 1927 film The Jazz Singer, when Al Jolson made history by singing this song on screen to Eugenie Besser, who plays his mother in the first synchronous recorded moment in film history. And the choice of Irving Berlin's Blue Skies is deliberate. The singing son knows his mother, and the Jewish members of the audience will recognize it as a relative of Rojinkes mit Mandlen. In song, Jolson is telling us that although he now sings in English and dresses like a goy, he has not forgotten his roots. But of course, it's a great song. So here's another example. Baruch atah Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, it ain't necessarily so. That, of course, is from Porgy and Bess, music composed by George Gershwin, first produced in 1935. It is remarkable, of course, that this song is about reading the Torah. Lil Moses was found in a stream, and Methuselah lived 900 years, and is framed by the melody that we use to recite brachot, blessings, around reading the Torah. Here's another example. Leonard Bernstein composed some explicitly Jewish music, most notably a setting of Kaddish and the Chichester Psalms. But there are some Jewish hints embedded in his not explicitly Jewish music as well. For example, he mimics a shofar in two of his best-known compositions. For example, the overture to the musical Candide, with an explicit musical instruction to the trumpets. It says in the score, like a shofar. Or in the prologue to West Side Story, when you hear the gang members of the Jets whistling to one another. And in particular, Maria. I've just met a girl named Maria, and suddenly that name will never be the same to me. The first three notes are similar to the so-called Ukrainian Dorian mode used in various places in Nusach. For example, also in Chasen Galem Mazel Tov. But if a cantor had written Maria, it would have sounded like this. Maria. But even more like Jewish music is the following. Maria, say it loud, and there's music playing. Say it soft, and it's only like praying. Uva l'tzion goel, shaveh feshem Yaakov neum Adonai. Maybe Bernstein wasn't thinking of Shabbat Mincha, but it sounds like maybe Tony was. And speaking of Shabbat Mincha, when I was in USY and I learned the Nusach for it, I was taught that it was used as a commercial jingle for Post Crispy Critter cereal, which you might remember, the one and only cereal that comes in the shape of animals. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. So whether that last one was knowingly connected to Shabbat Mincha or not, let's reframe the initial question. Is there Jewish music with discrete boundaries? The answer must be no. But surely, Kol Nidre, that's Jewish music, right, Rabbi? Well, of course, but it also must bear some relationship to the environment in Central Europe, where it emerged at least 7 centuries ago. All music crosses boundaries, so Persian Jewish music sounds much more like Persian non-Jewish music than Polish Jewish music, and Italian Jewish music sounds much more like Italian non-Jewish music than like Yemenite Jewish music. The Italian composer Salomone de' Rossi was criticized in early 17th century northern Italy for writing synagogue music that sounded similar to church music of the time. But he was only doing what we have done throughout Jewish history. That is Jewish composers and musicians taking what they have heard and repurposing it for Jewish contexts. There is a message here. We have never lived in a vacuum. We the Jews have always interacted with the people around us. And we have always been in a relationship, good or bad, cultural or political, religious and secular, with the non-Jews around us. Since music crosses boundaries so easily, the lines between, say, synagogue music and the pop tones composed by the Jews of Tin Pan Alley are certainly blurry, and so too with our lives. And I hate to ruin a perfectly good musical sermon for Shabbat Shirah with a rabbinic message, God forbid. But the fact that we have always been in musical relationship with our non-Jewish neighbors while maintaining our distinctiveness as a people is a model for the other aspects of our lives. We can truly be Jewish and live as Americans as long as we do not forget our customs, our laws, our text, our stories, and of course our prayer, and just as much our musical traditions.